Hello, I'll be talking about language and migration. It's a third year optional module that we're running. It's a new module and it looks at the role of language in migration. The part 3 module has two formats. It's a lecture that begins with input from me about theories of language and theories of migration, and then it's followed by seminar activities where students are given the opportunity to explore some of the themes and issues that have been raised in the lecture in more peer-to-peer interactions. The aims of this module are to provide students with an understanding of the role of language in different types of migration. So we look at a whole range of different migrations, forced migration as well as voluntary economic migration, and we try to identify the different language uses, different attitudes towards language, different ways that language and literacy fit into these different forms of migration. And we do that by using different tools from social linguistics and discourse analysis. And we apply those tools to media texts, to political speeches, but mainly we apply them to actual language use by migrants. So we look at the reading and writing that migrants do as part of their migrations, filling in visa application forms, as well as the vernacular literacies of social media. How do migrants use Facebook to stay in touch with friends and family in their home country, in the country of origin, but also how do they use social media to fit into their new communities when they've arrived in their destination countries. And the third aim is to look and explore in detail at how the study of migration helps us understand multilingualism. So migrants draw on a range of different language resources during their migrations, before their migrations, during and after their migrations. And what we want to do in this module is provide students with the opportunities and with the skills to explore how these different aspects of migration can help us understand different aspects of multilingualism. Because of this broad range of different theories and opportunities to explore migration, we look at different kinds of literature. So there's migration literature, looking at migration studies and sociology and some anthropology, but there are also key readings from social linguistics and applied linguistics, as well as very detailed case studies where we look at the very micro level aspects of language use by migrants, but we also look at the macro level. So we look at policy and we look at immigration procedures. The assessment for this module is mainly through the written assignment, which is a critical essay. In that essay, students are given the opportunity to pull together the different strands of theories of migration and language that we've explored during the module, pull them together by looking at specific case studies. So they can be case studies of particular communities and how the communities' language use has developed over time in different settings across the world, and how they draw on different resources at different points on their migration trajectories. So that's a critical essay worth 80%. There's also a class test which students take towards the end of the spring term, which is a multiple choice and short answer format. Again, where students are required to demonstrate their understanding of the reading based on these theories of migration and based on theories of language. And there are weekly quizzes which provide students with the opportunity to keep on top of those readings. So the module content draws from a range of different sources. We look at the way that migrants are constructed in the public sphere, in the media, as well as in political speeches. And we look at election campaign material to see how the politicization of migrants is a very prominent feature of how political parties talk about migration. But we also take a historical view. So we look at how empire building and imperialism, these huge social and economic and political processes, they had a huge impact on the way that we currently understand the nation state. And so we look at issues like nation building and relate this to migration. We also take a very contemporary view by looking at globalization, and we try to link that to modern and contemporary interpretations of multilingualism. So we look at code switching and code mixing, but we also look at translanguaging and emerging research discussions and debates that are happening within social linguistics today that are very much related to migration. We bring that down to the level of families and communities part the way through the module by looking at how specific communities look at home languages and how that relates to multicultural identities. And again, we look at specific instances of language use among communities in the UK as well as across Europe and in the US. Again, at that micro level, we want to understand how literacy fits into immigration. So we look at specific examples of the literacy practices of migrants. There's quite a shift towards the end of the module where we move from looking at voluntary migrants, economic migrants, towards migrants who were forced to leave their home places, their communities, and we look at refugees and asylum seekers and how issues around language not only shape their migrations when they leave their home countries, but also how language helps them to fit in with their new communities when they've arrived in their country of first asylum or their onward journeys. And finally, we look at higher education. So we bring the issues of migration and integration very close to students' own experience within higher education and universities today by looking at how language testing fits into the migration of international students.